Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome once again to our Mind Mastery Tutor channel. And today we are going to do this paper that we have here. So, yeah, stay tuned in. Okay, stay tuned in and don't worry. So, we have a question like this for integrated science. Section A, we have section A and section B, obviously. Section A is saying that grade 8 learners were told to classify calcium, sulfur, sodium, and phosphorus as metals and nonmetals. Which pair of elements consists of metals only? Now, the only metals, we have many metals? We have sodium, we have aluminium, we have calcium, we have magnesium, we have potassium, we have iron, and etc. But the ones that are usually metals are for first question A, yeah, this is correct. I mean, this is correct, obviously. Okay, what about calcium and phosphorus? No, phosphorus is a non-metal. Sulfur and sodium, sulfur is a non-metal. Phosphorus and sodium, phosphorus is a non-metal. So question 2, which one is not a compound? Which one is not a compound? A compound is a combination, is a chemical combination of two or more elements. Now, iron is an element, it's not a compound. Water is a compound of hydrogen and oxygen to give you H2O. So, what is a compound? Sorry, which one is not a compound? Iron is not a compound. Carbon dioxide is a compound, a combination of carbon and oxygen. Hydrochloric acid is a compound, hydrogen and chlorine. Question 3. Which one of the following is not a component of integrated science? Now, before even we enter such a question, you need to know what are the components of integrated science. We have chemistry, we have biology, we have physics. Those are the three components, but maths is not a component of integrated science. Otherwise, you'll have been solving for algebraic expression or equations. Question 4. One of the following mixtures are homogeneous. Which one is it? Now, a homogeneous solution is a solution that is a solution between two miscible liquids that when you take this liquid and mix it with another liquid, it just gives you one layer. So that is called a homogeneous solution. It only forms one layer. And that mixture is water and milk. That is why you might not know whether the milk has been diluted with water because it just gives you one layer. It's very, very hard to know whether milk has plenty of water or not. But for kerosene and water, you'll find two layers, and therefore they will be called heterogeneous solution. For sand and salt, those are not miscible liquids. They are neither liquids as well. Sugar and water, one is a liquid, the other one is a solid. Though they form a solution, but they are not called homogeneous solution. Question 5. Which one of the following is not a basic quantity? The basic quantities that we have include, we have length, we have time, we have temperature, uh, we have temperature, we have amount of substance, we have intensity of light, that is candela. Amount of substance is measured in SI units of moles. We have length, which is measured in meters, SI units, time in seconds, temperature in Kelvin. So volume is not a basic quantity, but is a derived quantity. So yeah, very, very easy. Now, question 6, which one of the following parts of male reproductive organ produces sperms? That is the testes. Okay. Urethra doesn't produce any sperm, to say so. Glands also, scrotum as well, but they are reproductive
Assalamu alaikum.
organs. Now, question 7, which one of the following is not a base? A base is a solution with a pH greater than 7. A base is anything that is most likely to be bitter. A base uh, is any substance that if you react with water produces hydroxyl ions as the only negative ions. A base is anything that if you react it with an acid, it gives you salt and water. A base is anything that when you put red litmus paper, it changes red litmus paper to blue. So that is a base. Now, if you look at the types of bases, examples of bases, we have toothpaste, we have baking powder, we have wood ash, we have calcium hydroxide, lime water, we have uh, sodium hydroxide, which is soda lime, and we have a lot. So we also have potassium hydroxide. Those are bases. So if you look at the answers, baking powder is a base, toothpaste is a base, wood ash solution is a base, but car batteries are not included in basic solutions. So those are just solids. Okay, question 8. An adolescent boy or girl may experience emotional changes frequently. Now, the best advice for her is to do physical exercise regularly. You might ignore this, but this thing usually benefits in a lot of ways. Itakusaidia ku remove stress, itakusaidia ku overcome negative emotions, itakusaidia to have a healthy life. It helps you in many things, and it prevents you from getting diseases such as diabetes and many such diseases like cholesterol and etc. Now, the best advice for her if she is receiving a lot of emotional changes is not to sleep less. You need to have a balanced sleep. Sleeping less doesn't mean that you're overcoming that emotional change. Avoiding interaction or avoid interacting, that's also not a good way, but it may lead to negative having negative emotions instead. So yeah, that's very hard, and it's also it's very negative, by the way. It's not a good thing. Now, eat more carbohydrates, you just get more fats, and it doesn't remove that emotional change that you have. You might think is the solution, but it's not the solution. Question 9. Which one of the following is an example of a temporary change? A temporary change is when you have uh, a substance, after, or let's say a temporary change is something that you might reverse back to you might revert back to how it was. So let's say uh, you wanted to burn something, let's say ice. You want to heat ice, it gives you water. That is not a temporary change. Why? Because that is a temporary change. Why? Because ice can be converted to water. At the same time, water can be reverted back to ice. That is called now a temporary change. Question, okay, choice A, burning wood. No, that is a permanent change, because once you burn wood, you won't retrieve the wood that you wanted it back. Rising of iron is a permanent change. Cooking an egg is also a permanent change, but dissolving sugar in water is not a permanent change, but instead is a temporary change, because at the end of the day, you can still separate sugar from water. Question 10. Which one of the following energy is involved in movement of objects? And that energy is called kinetic energy. Which one of the following changes is a chemical change? Which one of the following changes is a chemical change? Now, a chemical change uh, has this effect. You get a new substance formed. Most of the time, it can be reversible. Sometimes it can be irreversible, depending on which equation or which reaction did it take. But most of the time, you get a new substance formed. There will be heat energy that is usually released into the atmosphere, or there's a heat change. The size of that reactant also changes, might decrease or might increase. So there's a change in size and mass as well. So that those components are examples of chemical change. So let's look at the choices. Melting ice, is it a chemical change? No, you just still get the same liquid that is water. Burning pepper is a chemical change, by the way. Okay, because at the end of the day, the pepper will escape, so the mass will reduce, and there's also there's a heat change as well. Dissolving salts in water, no, not a chemical change. Freezing water is also not a chemical, so it's not a chemical change as well. Then the answer is just burning pepper. Question 12. Which one of the following objects will be attracted to the magnet? Tin. Okay. Those are usually attracted to magnet, are mostly metallic, apart from I think copper and other metals, but most of the metals are magnetic, especially steel and etc. Rubber is not attracted to the magnet, is not magnetic material. Wood and paper as well. Okay. Which class of fire will be put off by a wet piece of cloth? Okay. Which class of fire? Now there are different types of there are different classes of fire. We have class A, which is that is for combustible solids. Okay, like for example wood, plastic, and etc. Class B is for combustible liquids. For example, kerosene, petrol, fire that is caused by combustible liquids. Class C is for combustible gases like butane, pentane, and etc. Those are gases that we have, or hydrogen as well. That is class C. Class D for combustible metals like potassium, sodium. Those are combustible metals. Then we have class E and etc. We also have class E electric. I think it's the electric due to the electric faulting electric wires. Yeah, and then we have another class F. There are many classes, but for now, the class, which one can you use to put off using a wet piece of cloth? And that is class B, combustible liquids. You can use a wet piece of cloth to put it out, combustible liquids, since they are liquids. But you can't use what do you call it? Don't use plain water, because sometimes it might not put off, because something like kerosene or paraffin will be on top of the water. But for piece of cloth, wet piece of cloth, it can turn out. Question 14, identify the part marked W, and that W is the cell membrane. Now this is a cell. So inside this is cytoplasm. This is the nucleus, and you don't have any cell wall, by the way. Only plant cell usually has a cell wall. Okay. Question 15. All the following statements are correct about pressure in liquids except: is it exerted in all directions? Yes. Does it increase in depth? Yes. Equal at same depth? Yes. But it doesn't decrease with increase in depth. That is your answer. Question 16. Which one of the following consists of only substances that have no definite shape but have definite volume? And those are liquids, because liquids, they don't have definite shape. They take the shape of the container. They have definite volume, and that is this is not liquid. This doesn't have liquid. Also, this one doesn't have liquids. These are pure liquids. Question 17. Which one of the following pairs are base only? Is it baking powder and toothpaste? Yes. Carbohydrates and soft drinks are not bases. Toothpaste is a base, but carbohydrate is not base. Okay, soft drinks and baking powder. Baking powder is a base, but soft drink is not. So the answer, your main is just choice A. Question 80. Which one of the following is a layer of the skin? Sebaceous. There's not. Keratin is not a layer. The vessel also just part of it, but there's something called sub subcutaneous. So it's supposed to be subcutaneous. Okay, that is the hypodermis. We have three layers, obviously. We have the epidermis, the dermis, which is in the middle, and then the hypodermis, which is the deepest end. Okay, so the first layer is epi, then dermis, then hypodermis. Question 19. Identify the apparatus used in the lab. And this apparatus obviously is a conical flask. It's not a test tube. A test tube looks like this. Pipette looks like this. The very big one. So there's something like this. Is it that one? It looks like it's a bursting fan. But a pipette is something that you usually suck in water and elevate to another apparatus. Rod. This is just a rod. Okay, so it's used to mix solutions or something. also to test for solutions. Question 20. Identify the elements with the following electron arrangement. So you see it has 9 protons. So obviously its arrangement is going to be 2s7 because it's going to have the same electrons. Even if you look at the electronic arrangement, you have 2 here, and you have 6 in the second shell, or in the second energy level. So 2s7 it belongs to what is it, fluorine, because fluorine is number 9. So fluorine has an arrangement of 2s7. So let's come back to this. Obviously, fluorine is the answer. Which class of fire that's question 21, is caused by materials such as papers, sticks, and trash? That is class A, because class A are combustible solids. Okay. Question 22, the following are challenges related to menstruation, except you have irregular bleeding. Obviously, we have painful periods, we have irregular periods. We don't know which period is which period nowadays. Now we don't have wet dreams. I don't know who experiences wet dreams in menstruation. Hii itakuwa mara ya kwanza sasa. Question 23. Now a block of wood has a mass of 960 grams. Its dimensions are 20 centimeter by 15 centimeter by 8 centimeter. Find its density in kilogram per cubic meter. Let me use this space up top, at the top, this for this question. Now we have a mass of 960 gram. Do you have a volume? No, but you can find a volume. And volume is calculated by 20 length times width times height, 20 by 15 by 8. So our volume is going to be, if you take 20 times 15 times 8, you're going to get 2,400 cubic centimeter. Okay. Now you want to find out the density, and density is given by mass over volume. So you take the mass, which is 960, divide by the volume, which is 2,400. So 960 divided by the volume is going to give you 0.5 grams per cubic centimeter. But the answer, the question is not asking in terms of gram per cubic centimeter, but instead is asking us to find it in terms of kilogram per cubic centimeter. We know that for every 1 gram per cubic, you get 1,000 kilogram per cubic meter. So you just convert the 0.4 gram into kilogram per cubic meter by multiplying it to 1,000. So 0.4 times 1,000 will give us 400 kilogram per cubic meter. So the answer to this question is choice V. Now the part of skin that produces sweat is obviously the sweat gland, not the fat layer, not the hair follicle, and not the oil gland. Okay. Question 25. Which of the following substance is corrosive? Now let me see. Okay, which of the following substance is corrosive? Now the market scheme is saying vinegar, but I'll oppose it. No, no, you shouldn't believe every time whatever the market scheme is saying. But I'll oppose it because bleach is corrosive, because bleach has a property of acidic nature in it. So huwezi kuniambia ati bleach is non-corrosive. My friend, if you're a girl and you are wearing those cosmetics and etc., there's a bleaching agent inside, so it's very, very corrosive. So abstain from wearing a lot of makeups. I don't know what's the use of wearing those makeups and you're still young. So avoid those. Don't wear it because of, I don't know, TikTok and etc. You guys are very young. When you reach that stage, you'll wear it in front of your husbands. But for now, concentrate on learning. Education is important. Once you finish all of those stages, is one you can think of marrying. But for now, just learning is the priority. Vinegar is not corrosive, by the way. How many times have we taken vinegar in? Since when did it become corrosive? Uh, for me, I think bleach is the correct answer. Okay. Now, question 26. Which one of the following is a reason for studying integrated science? We don't study to become musicians. That is false. Don't know who told us that. To understand history of what? That is history and geography. So if kama unataka kujua historia ya watu, nenda kasome geography ama history. Choice C, to understand nature and solve problems. Yeah, you need to understand nature and solve those problems. When you're having climatic changes, when you're experiencing less rains, drought, that is why we are studying integrated science, and we become innovators and critical thinkers. Which choice D, to memorize facts. Which facts are we memorizing? We are not studying integrated science to memorize. That is why I'm emphasizing on all students to not memorize this, understand it, and see how you apply it in life. Okay. Question 27. The best way to manage mood swings during adolescence is, you don't ignore emotions, by the way. That's not the best way. Uh, don't know who says that's the best way. Okay, choice B, isolating yourself. You're just endangering yourself. But by the way, when you when you're facing with emotional imbalances, you need to consult a psychiatrist. If it's something that is very much attention needy, then you need to consult a psychiatrist or someone who is a medical profession, or a friend that usually consoles you. Okay, but don't isolate yourself because it's dangerous. You might think sometimes about sacrificing yourself. Um, yeah, suicidal thoughts and etc. Okay, choice C, watching television all day. No, uh, that's not the best way. So don't think that if you want to manage just by looking at Netflix, I don't know what, and those football stars will help you to manage mood swing. That's incorrect. Choice D, doing physical exercises regularly. Yes, that's a good way. That's why I'm telling you always do physical exercise. And I think I need to start doing physical exercise because look at my state. Nimeanza kuwa na kitambi kukubwa. Question 28. What's the function of placenta in pregnancy? What's the function of placenta in pregnancy? So first, it doesn't help in fertilization. Fertilization takes place at the oviduct. It doesn't store waste. It don't store waste. Protects baby from injuries. No, that's not the one. The cervix mostly, I think it helps that. Transports oxygen and nutrients. Yes. Now, question 29. Which one of the following characteristics is not a temporary physical change? So it's not a temporary physical change. It means it's a permanent change. Permanent physical change. Okay, something that is permanent. There's no change in mass. Is that a permanent one? No. There is change in mass. The change is reversible? No. A new substance is formed? Yes. And there's no heat change involved? No. The answer is choice C. Because if something is permanent, it means a new substance is formed. Most probably the change is irreversible most of the time. And there's also heat change involved most of the time. Okay, question 30, that's the end of section A. Question 30 says grade 9 learners were learning about acids and bases. They wanted to tell the degree of acidity or alkalinity in different substances. Which one of the following did they use? They used a pH scale. Okay, a pH scale tells you whether this acid is weak or this acid is base. But a universal indicator also will help you, by the way. Okay, it tells you this weak or something, but the degree, okay, the degree of acidity. Kama unataka kujua pH scale 1 is it weak, pH scale 3 is it strong acid or weak acid, like that. That is the benefit of having a pH scale. So these others are now what we call indicators. Okay, indicators just tells you that if the substance is an acid or a base, it is an weak or strong, and etc. Yep. Now let's head to section B. Okay, we're in section B. Now, you've been told outline 3 ways of preventing rusting. We have several ways. The first one being painting. We have electroplating. Okay. We have something called galvanizing. I can write others. We have something called sacrificial protection. Okay, we have coating, or let's say alloying, and etc. We have different preventions. Okay, but these are the main ones. Now, question 32, give the chemical name of first. It's called hydrated. Okay, hydrated iron 3 oxide, which you can also write it like this chemical formula this way, which is correct. Now, question 33, iron, oxygen, and water are needed for rusting to occur. Use two-word equation to show formation of rust. Now, the first word equation is that if you take iron plus oxygen, let me be told word equations, not chemical equations. Iron plus oxygen, you get iron 3 oxide. Iron, you get iron 3 oxide. So iron plus oxygen gives you iron 3 oxide. That's the first equation. Let me just write it here. The second one is when now you take iron 3 oxide plus water, and you get hydrated iron 3 oxide. So those are the three chemical equations that we have. Okay, what is an alloy? An alloy is a combination of a metal and a metal. A combination of a metal. Let me just write it. The combination of a metal with another metal, or a metal with a non-metal. So it's when you mix the two to give you one. And by the way, it's just not only let me correct it, because I think I've wrong somewhere, because you might think it's just two metals. So it's a combination of two or more metals. You can have three metals in one, two or more metals, or metal with a metal. Now, brass is an alloy made by combining zinc and copper. Okay. And then you need to know all other alloys, especially. I want this is a question to you. What's bronze made up of? Duralumin is made up of what, and etc. Now, dash is a property of metal that makes them reflect light in their surfaces. Okay, and that is luster, or lustrous. So yeah, written like this. Yeah, that's how it's written. Am I sure? Okay, yeah, I'm sure. Okay, metals are generally solid except mercury. Mercury is a metal, by the way. Many people don't know it. It's a transition metal, but it is a metal, but it's just a liquid at room temperature. Now, define an atom. Instead, is 3 subatomic particles. An atom is the smallest particle of an element that takes part in a chemical reaction. And the three subatomic particles we have is, the first one is protons, the second one is neutrons, both of them are inside the nucleus, and the third one is an electron, or are electrons. So yeah. Now, question 39, the element potassium K has atomic number 19 and 20 neutrons. Determine the mass number. Now, mass number is equal to protons plus neutrons. So protons are 19 because we said atomic number is the number of protons. So we have 19 protons. So 19 plus 20 is going to give you 39. Roman 2, determine the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Number of protons is 19. Neutrons are 20. Electrons are also 19 because we say the number of protons is equal to the number of electrons. So if you have 19 protons, you also have 19 electrons at the end of the day. Now write the electronic configuration of potassium. We have 19 electrons, and therefore write it like this: 2, 8, 8, 1. Okay, because if you take 2 plus 8, obviously it's 10. 2 plus 8 is 18, plus 1 is 9. Because the first shell will take a maximum of 2, second shell 8, third shell 8, and the remaining, that is 1, will be taken in the fourth shell. Question 40. Identify 2 basic skills in science that applied when determining the temperature of water using a thermometer. That is the observation skills. You observe. So there's observation skills. Okay. And we have measuring skills because you are measuring it. I'm measuring it the temperature. So you observe and you also measure at the same time. Question 41. The setup below was done by grade 8 liners. Okay, so what happened, you see that there's water entered into the peeled potato, and then it's ensured now that the water level inside the peeled potato rose up, and that process is called osmosis. Identify the process being demonstrated above is osmosis. It migrates from a higher concentration, that is water molecule, move from a high concentration to a lower concentration. That is the water molecules, not the salts, but the water. As for the salt solution, moves from obviously it's just the opposite, lower to higher. But this is the answer. Osmosis. Explain the observation made at the end of the activity. Now, the water in the peeled potatoes rose up while that in the beaker fell. Okay, fell down. How do you say it? It fell because water molecules went from a high concentration to a lower concentration. Very easy. The higher concentration is when it's inside that beaker. A low concentration is that peeled potatoes. The diagram below shows the arrangement of particles. Which state of matter is shown? Most probably is gas because they are very, very far apart from each other. Okay. Question B, explain the behavior of the particles in the state of matter in A above. Okay. Now explain the behavior of the particles in the state of matter in A above. That is, now here, the particles are freely packed away from each other. You see it, they are packed away from each other. That is from each other, causing them to occupy the container space. Okay, come on. Now the particles can only come together when compacted or condensed together. Okay, so they can only come when compacted or condensed together. So yeah, but for now they are free away from each other, so that they each causing them to occupy the container space. That is why those are gas particles. Now a metal bar XY was brought near the magnet below, but X of the metal bar was attracted to south pole of the magnet. Explain. Now X was attracted to the south pole. It means this is north. And Y was attracted obviously to the north. This is going to be Y. Bar X was attracted to south pole of the magnet. Explain. Bar X is considered north. It's considered north. Why? Because like poles attract. Like poles attract. You can't have north and north being attracting. And like poles usually attract. Okay, and that is why pi X is considered as north, because it got attracted to the south. Okay, and also part X was also metallic in nature. You can say that as X was metallic and therefore it got attracted to the magnet. But I think if you just write it that I want to be considered north, and because they are like poles, they usually attract to each other. Okay, leading to magnetism, obviously. Now, name any three parts of plant cell. A plant cell has a nucleus, obviously. We have a cell wall. Okay, we have a subvacuole. Okay, we also have cytoplasm, chloroplast, chloroplast. We have a cell membrane. Okay, and we have a lot, and etc. Question 45. Identify the following chemical symbols. This Ca is written as calcium. Mg is written as magnesium. Hg is probably mercury. Okay. Ag is silver. Okay. Au is gold. That is aurum and argentum. Okay. Na is sodium. By the way, what's the real name of Hg? So like Ag is argentum, Au is aurum. But what about Hg? Comment below. Na is natrium and it is sodium. Natrium is a Latin name for sodium. Be is baridium. And that is that. I think that is all. Or I think we're still continuing. No, we're not. So that is all. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share, and like as always, so that I can get to post many videos. So in case of any questions and anything, please comment there. Also, we have tuition for Form 4s. If you have a Form 4 student with you, and if you are grade 9, there are one-on-one classes with you guys. So just come and just chat with me, 0797 550885. So don't worry about that. So for Form 4 lessons, there's the daily activity that is Form 4 students are welcome. So in case you want to join our classes, then you can join and just contact me through this number. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.